Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Brajajanaranjana Jayo Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jayo Yashodanandana Jaya Brajajanaranjana Jayo Brajajanaranjana Jayo Jayo Yamunatiravanachari Jayo Kunjabihari Jayo Yamunatiravanachari Jayo Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Brajajanaranjana Jayo Brajajanaranjana Jayo Brajajanaranjana Jayo Brajajanaranjana Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Brajajanaranjana Jayom Rajajanaranjana. Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari. Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. This one, or be changed? Whichever, but I think this is more. Okay. Take this. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Srimad Bhagavatam actually has two Mangalacharanas. One is Grantha Arambha Mangalacharana. It is the auspicious invocation which is in the beginning of book. It is the pranama of Lord Vasudeva Krishna, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. But there is also Samapta Mangalacharana on the end of book. And the end of book is 12th canto. Over there you can see also ending Mangalacharana, which is also very auspicious. I forgot the verses by themselves, but Mangalacharas, they have different purposes, but it's to offer obeisances to Supreme Lord, Guru, other Vaishnavas, to get blessings so that we can get this revealed knowledge, because this knowledge is not sense perception or inference based. It is revealed knowledge, Shabda Brahma. And on the end we also request that this knowledge is retained within our mind and our consciousness. So today we will be reading from the 5th canto, chapter 14, entitled The Forest of Enjoyment, text 37. Text is in prose, Gadya, so I will just read it in without meter. And it's because sometimes it's difficult to follow Sanskrit. It's good to read word by word before the Sanskrit. But you don't have devices, so how you follow? So it's if you are daily on class, it's good to have device to follow. So we'll read word by word. Evam vittavyati shangam vivrida vaira anubhandaham api Purva Vasanayam Mitaham Udvahati Atam Apavahati Evam Vitta Vyatirshanga Vivrida Vairanubhando Pipurva Vasanaya Mita Udvahat Attapavahati. Someone else? Okay, thank you so much. Evam, in this way, Vitta Vyatishangam, because of monetary transactions, Vivridam, increased, Vaira Anubhandaham, having relationships of enmity, Apim, although Purva Vasanayam, by the fructifying results of previous impious activities, Mithaham, with each other, Udvahatim, become united by means of the marriage of sons and daughters. Means sons. Atam, thereafter, Apavahatim, they give up the marriage or get a divorce. Translation. Although people may be enemies, in order to fulfill their desires again and again, they sometimes get married. Sometimes no. Sometimes Sanskrit gives direct but also indirect, just to confirm. No? Unfortunately, these marriages do not last very long, and the people involved are separated again by divorce or other means. Purport. As stated previously, every conditioned soul has the propensity to cheat even in marriage. Everywhere in this material world, one conditioned soul is envious of another. For the time being, people may remain friends, but eventually they become enemies again and fight over money. Sometimes they marry and then separate by divorce or other means. On the whole, unity is never permanent. Due to cheating propensity, both parties always remain envious. Even in Krishna consciousness, separation and enmity take place due to the prominence of material propensities. So this whole chapter, the allegory given by Jada Bharata, is very intense with different teachings, psychological teachings and understandings of material world, but Srimad Bhagavatam has to be learned in proper context, otherwise we may get wrong, impartial impression. Here is the used word vasana. This is purva vasana, previous activities or impressions. So it must be learned in proper context, and proper context is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Also in Srimad Bhagavatam it said, Dashame Vishuddh Artam, Navama Iha Lakshanam Varnayanti Mahatmanaha Shruten Artena Hi Chanjasa. For the purpose of describing in a pure way 10th topic or theme of Srimad Bhagavatam, 9 others have been described in a way of their characteristics. Navapadartha Lakshana Varnana. Varnana means description and Lakshana means the characteristics. So these characteristics of Srimad Bhagavatam are given in second canto and later also in 12th canto, and they are Atra Sargo Visargascha Sthana Poshana Uttayaha Manvantarena. Are you reading somewhere there? In mind? Manvantare, it's a very long conjunction. Manvantare Shanukata Nirodo Muktir Ashrayaha. So the first 9 of these 10 are different topics of Srimad Bhagavatam which are having the purpose to describe the 10th Ashraya. And others are Ashrita. Srila Sridhar Swami gives one verse, he's saying, Dashame Dashama Lakshyam Ashrita Ashraya Vigraham Shri Krishnakyam Jagadama Paramdama Namami Tat. I'm offering my humble obeisances to one who is known as Krishna, Shri Krishnakyam, who is Jagadama, he is the abode of the universe, Paramdama, he is the highest abode, and the topic about him, Dashame Dashama Laksham, is described in the 10th canto. He is the Ashrita Ashraya, he is the shelter of the sheltered. And who are the sheltered? It is devotees, the Sadhaka Bhaktas and Siddha Bhaktas. So whatever we hear in Srimad Bhagavatam is very important to hear and to understand in the context of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise we may get improper impression about that and practice in a wrong way. Because if you read, for example, this chapter, you will get impression of, let's say, Bibhatsa Rasa. Everything is just misery. But if you don't have another aspect, Sambandha, Krishna, Bhagavan Sambandha, Krishna Sambandha, then you will practice that in life. You will see only misery in life. So it's very, very important to understand in context of Krishna consciousness. And then that context will lead us to proper vasanas and how to practice bhakti. So we mentioned these 10 topics. The Ashraya is Krishna, and other 9, Navapadartha, are creation and secondary creation, Sarga Visarga, Sthana, the maintenance of living beings, the poshana, the nourishment of devotees, and then there is Uttayaha. Uttayaha is the impetuses for activities of different living beings in this world. So obviously this chapter fits into this category, no? Not this chapter, the whole story is giving plenty of reasons why are living beings in this world acting. And Srimad Bhagavatam is not only giving the psychology of conditioned living beings, Jiva Maya Tattva or Nitya Bada Jiva, it's also giving Jiva Mukta Tattva. How is Jiva liberated from these conditions? So, it's very important then to understand in the context of psychology of 10th canto, and there is so many points in purport which Srila Prabhupada is saying, which seems ordinary, but our tradition explains the Rasa Shastra clearly, and Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the obstacles for rasa in this world, in this chapter, in this purport. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying, Shri Bhagavate Bhakti Rasa Swarupa. Srimad Bhagavatam is the embodiment of mellows of Lord Shri Krishna, with Shri Krishna. So Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Shri Krishna. It's a special standard of knowledge where Srimad Bhagavatam doesn't contain, literally expressions of some sages which describes reality. Srimad Bhagavatam is that reality. These Sanskrit verses are reality. It's called Vachya Vachaka Sambandha, the connection between what is spoken and who is the speaker. It's permanent, it cannot be broken. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is that reality. So associating with Srimad Bhagavatam is pedagogical method to process in spiritual life. Chaitanya Charitamrita is saying that there are two kinds of Bhagavatas. Eka, Bhagavata Bhada, Bhagava Shastra, and another one is Bhagavat Bhakta, who is Bhakti Rasa Patra. So there is a book Bhagavat and there is devotee Bhagavat, and this devotee is Bhakti Rasa Patra. He is the recipient of mellows of devotional service. So we have to learn Srimad Bhagavatam from someone who understands these mellows of devotional service. It's written in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Muho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. It is for those who have taste to relish bhava and rasa with Krishna, and it's very elevated topic. It's definitely not for Kanishta Dikari like myself. It's Srimad Bhagavatam is Paramahamsa Samhita. We read this only by grace of Srila Prabhupada. We have so many of our own conditioned mentalities, so we are reading just as a grace. So the obstacles to rasa described in this purport is written. Just a moment. Yeah. On the whole, unity is never permanent. And this is problem in rasa, because rasa is based on sthai bhava. And sthai bhava means permanent emotion. And this emotion is developed between the ashraya and vishaya. Ashraya is the shelter of that emotion. It's a devotee. And vishaya is Sri Krishna, the lover and beloved. And this is Vibhava Udipan. Two components are there, Bhagavan Bhakta and Bhakti. But if the object of love is not permanent, means it's changing body, then sthai bhava cannot be permanent. Because if you have, let's say, a child, mother has affection for child, that balya lila, the activities of a boy or a girl, the body is changing. So then, of course, mother's love will not change, but you cannot. As a mother, you cannot behave with adult son or a daughter in the same way as with child. No, so that Balya Lila will finish. Kumara Lila, Pauganda, Yovana will finish. So you cannot have permanent affection for that person. And that is the whole problem of this world. Everything else is described in that context, that you cannot have permanent relationship, permanent rasa, and therefore all other problems are evolved like a chapala sukha. There is a very flickery happiness, because one object was giving you happiness in one moment, in another moment he's giving you misery. Like a child growing is giving us to parents so much of happiness, then child becomes teen and he has so many problems in life. Maybe he takes drugs or so, and the same child becomes a disturbance to mind. Although you have love for that child, no? Or one person may be liked by someone and can be disliked by others. So there cannot be permanent situation in this world, and we see that through that happiness doesn't come from the object of perception. For example, ice cream. You eat one ice cream, amazing. Second, you want to increase. Here is used word vriddha. Just one moment. Yeah, it's called Vitta Vyatishanga Vivrida. increasing monetary transactions. So same thing we want with ice cream or any other enjoyment. You want to increase second, but third you're already in trouble. No? You will get maybe some, if the headache from ice cream or stomach problems or whatsoever. So then this question, how is happiness coming from ice cream? And that is the whole thing of yoga, to understand that happiness is not coming from the object of sense enjoyment, it's coming from the perception of that object. How do you perceive it and how do you relate with that object? The same thing is in relationships. But however, we should not conclude that if I'm not getting the happiness from family members or friends or the devotees in community and institution, that I should just abandon them. Along with this topic of Uttaya, there is also a topic of Manvantara. It's duties, prescribed duties for human beings. So if you learn this topic of renunciation and detachment, but then also you should learn what is coming, the manus, duties, how the human being should behave, and how you should overcome dualities and act on the level of Nishkama Karma Yoga. Within marriage, within friendship, within institution, community, you should act on the level of Nishkama Karma Yoga. It means acting as per sake of duty and not for the sake of enjoying the results. Because if you want to enjoy the results, your relationship will suffer. And it's said here clearly that people marry, but they get divorced. And they used to be great friends and now they're enemies. Because why? They don't get satisfaction from each other. And that means that their relationship was lacking real commitment, it was lacking dharma, it was based on sense enjoyment. And as soon as like ice cream enjoyment melts down, then there is no affection anymore. So we can't base our affection, our rati for people based on sense enjoyment. It must be based on dharma, on Bhagavad Dharma, something that uplifts our consciousness. So it's very important to understand that in approaching our relationship, that we just don't approach in a way that we see material aspect, because material aspect is impermanent. It will bring misery, but you see also devotee behind. You see that you can have relationship with that person. Here is used word vaira anubandha, the having relationships of enmity. So this anubandha connection should not be based on matter, otherwise it will create enmity, because enmity means I cannot enjoy you, because there is always conflict of interest. So although this chapter speaks very heavily about forest of enjoyment, we should know that actually activity is unstoppable. Living being must continue living. So sometimes we prematurely advocate renunciation, etc., and then people get stuck and they're not able to perform their dharma and not qualified for Nivritti mark, for sannyasa ashram or brahmacharya ashram. Actually, there is also a misconception of brahmacharya ashram. Brahmacharya ashram is not sannyasa ashram. Brahmachari is a student of what? Not only of spiritual knowledge, but also material knowledge. Because you have to learn both paravidya and aparavidya. You learn transcendental subjects, but you learn material subjects in context of Krishna consciousness, because Srimad Bhagavatam is full of material subjects. For example, this is psychology of a conditioned living being. So you can learn about psychology. So it's not that in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Shastras you're not learning secondary aspects of life, like technical knowledge, etc. But you have to learn it in context of Krishna consciousness. So Brahmacharya ashram, it is surrender to Guru, but Guru is not teaching only Paravidya, he's teaching also Aparavidya. Otherwise, it would be very much impractical. You don't know anything. You, for example, playing musical instruments, it's not transcendental by itself. I mean, we regard Mridanga as Lord Balaram, but other instruments doesn't need to be necessarily instruments by themselves. So many topics are there which we have to learn indirectly, and that is the beauty of Srimad Bhagavatam. In that verse which I quoted, it said, Varnayanti Mahatmanaha, the great sages, they explain, Shrutena Arthena Chanjasa. They explained through prayers, directly and indirectly. And when they are explaining indirectly, they are explaining through material topics. And why they explain it that way? Because we can't relate transcendental topics because we don't have experience of them. And therefore this anjasa, cha anjasa, and indirect. Why indirect? Because any knowledge must first be explained from known to unknown. And Krishna is to us is unknown. So you can explain Krishna only through known. And what means this known? Through objects of this world. For example, analogies of Krishna with some object in this world, like a lotus flower. Krishna's face is beautiful like a lotus flower. But it's not exactly like a lotus flower, but there is a beauty over there in lotus flower which you can relate this Lakshana with Lakshya. Lakshana, characteristic with Lakshya, means what is describing Krishna. So in that way you can relate with Krishna. And Jiva Goswami explained this in Tattva Sandarbha. It's an intuition of subject. Intuition of subjects of Srimad Bhagavatam in relation to Ashra. Ashra means Krishna, we said. Because this book is Samadhi of Srila Vyasadeva and Shukadeva Goswami. So how can conditioned living being have any kind of understanding of their Samadhi? So therefore he describes other 9 topics through intuition. Intuition and connection with Ashraya. For example, he gives 2 connections. One is the intuition of Jiva, of Jiva's consciousness with Krishna, and one is intuition of subjects, 9 subjects in connection with Krishna. How Krishna is the Ashrita of the whole universe. In simple words, that means you would learn chemistry, physics, mathematics, psychology, any material subjects you can imagine, and arts, science and arts, from the point of view of Krishna consciousness. That is what is indirectly said. But the intuition of Jiva is called. It's called. Just a moment. Vyasti Nirdesha, individual perspective of Jiva on reality. And Samasti Nirdesha is this 9 subjects in context of Ashraya Tattva. So Vyasti Nirdesha, how individual being can have intuitively understand this Samadhi. And he quotes that verse. Actually, whole Sandarbhas are explanation of one verse. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. So the learned sages have said, learned sages means tattva vid, the one who have seen reality or knower of reality. Vid, knowing is the effect of seeing. Tattva vid is one who have seen reality. And then he defines reality, tattvam yaj jnanam advayam. The knowledge, the reality is the non-dual knowledge or consciousness. Advaya Jnana Tattva, Chaitanya Charitamrita is saying. The reality is non-dual consciousness. So then he explains what that means, because this world is temporary, constantly changing, and there is a duality between perceiver and perceived, pramatri and prameya. So then how can be non-duality? There is constant duality, and he quotes over there Kshanika Vijnana Buddhists, and these Buddhists are saying actually there is no pramatri. There is no perceiver, there is only pramana and prameya. There is only things are processed in the mind and objects of this world which are imagined. It's a Vivartavada. Like things are imagined in mind. It's a radical idealism, absolute idealism. Everything is just imagined in mind. It's also popular nowadays in some scientific circles. So they say actually you perceive different objects in this world and they are impressions. Like a tree, you see the greenery, you see the bird, you see the fruit. And all these are just impressions in mind, vasanas. But there is no perceiver there. So then what is Gaudiya answer to this? The answer is Advaya Jnana Tattva. And how that relates practically, Jiva Goswami says that if there would be no perceiver, then whatever we get in our memory, our perceptions in memory, wouldn't have any continuous reference. There would be just scattered impressions here and there. And there would be no any continuation. In other words, there would be no Advaya Jnana Tattva, the one who constantly perceiving that. And Jiva Goswami then develops whole sandarbhas based on this intuition. That you are different from your perception and you are continuous perceiver. And this is how actually Srimad Bhagavatam starts with science. This is the science. Modern science started with famous saying, I think therefore I am. That was Rousseau or Descartes? Descartes. I think therefore I am. But in context this means I am conscious therefore I am. Because thinking is also permanent and changeable. So you are not existing just because you are thinking. You are existing because you are conscious. So the consciousness is the beginning of science. And actually this last 25 years are very interesting in science, because science is starting to describe what is consciousness. We can speak about theological points of God, etc., but the consciousness is the beginning of understanding what is reality. The Ashraya Tattva is the last Tattva to understand, but the first Tattva to understand is Advaya Jnana Tattva, how knowledge is non-dual, how the perceiver, the subject and the object are non-different in consciousness, in knowledge. And the special pedagogical standard over there is that the guru who realized this non-difference has to transfer that knowledge to Shishya. Shishya, through his own imperfect senses, is not able to grasp that transcendental knowledge. So the Srimad Bhagavatam can contribute so much to understanding of modern science and psychology by providing proper philosophy of science. In science we have generally two main aspects. One is naive realism, which was people used to believe for a very long time. It means the world is as we see it. This is naive realism. And most of people think like that. And another one is idealism. It's a philosophical aspect where everything is just in mind. But Srimad Bhagavatam gives a third perspective, that there is a world outside, but we perceive it phenomenologically with imperfections. So we actually never perceive the material elements or material world properly, because our senses are imperfect. Even in science, they accept this called ratification. Ratification means you receive something with Gyanendriya, let's say touch, and I assume there is a table there. And in my perception, in my chitta, I remember a table from before, and I conclude there is a table there. And we don't say that there is no table there. Buddhists are saying there is no table. We say there is a table, but my perception of table is just my perception. There is not perception of table. It's a subtle difference. Like the world seems so real, but actually only what I know of the world is my perceptions of the world. I don't know the world. I know my senses, my mind, intelligence, and ahankara. Because we have two ways of knowledge. One is through Bahiranga Karana, external senses, and Antaranga Karana, internal senses. Internal senses in Gita is said. Can you, Prabhu, please? Good morning, Mr. Jayadev. We know you are in jet lag, but we'll request you to land to Switzerland. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful place, so be with us. So, Bahiranga Karana and Antaranga Karana, we perceive with external senses, like a touch or a smell or eyesight or whatsoever, but it's processed by Antaranga Karana, by mind. And mind is processing only perception of the world, not the world. So, we get impressions, then through nerves we get impulse in the brain, then brain is interpreting for the mind, and the mind is getting the impressions. So you never actually experience the world, although the world looks very realistic. And one of the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam is Nirodha, and Nirodha is explaining that there is one pralaya which is nitya, it's permanent pralaya, constant destruction. The one thing which you perceive in a moment, the next moment is not that thing in microcosmos. Srimad Bhagavatam gives three perspectives. One is metacosmos, then macrocosmos, and microcosmos. Vyasti Nirdesha, Samasti Nirdesha, and the third one I forgot, but three levels of Mahavishnu. Karandakashai, Garbhodakashai, and Kshirodakashai. One gives... Jiva Goswami explains that this perception of knowledge which you have in this world is borrowed actually. It's borrowed from Paramatma. It's not ours actually. One is given by Kshirodakashai Vishnu, the individual perception, then Garbhodakashai Vishnu gives the perception of cosmos through different subjects, and these abstract concepts is given by Karandakashai Vishnu. So we are just borrowing the knowledge in this world because Maya have covered the real knowledge of Jiva. This forest of enjoyment speaks about Maya, no? And so how things are happening that we are in Maya? Because Jiva, or better to say Atma, originally has the capacity of self-perception, the cognizance aspect, the Vidya Shakti, but because of Jiva Maya, we forget that knowledge. Jiva Maya is having avidya and vidya aspect. Avidya is avarnatmika, covering aspect with material bodies, and prakshipatmika, distortion of perception. So we are first covered by illusion of covering our knowledge, and plus guna maya, the innumerable permutations of three gunas, and then we are confused. Now, what is truth? And therefore, we get so many problems in world because of wrong perceptions. We don't perceive ourselves properly. We don't know who we are, and we even don't relate with material world. We don't even relate with jivas, because jiva cannot have direct rasa with each other. Sometimes we think, oh, I love him so much, but you don't know him actually. Isn't it? Like in this world we have indirect relationship through material objects, through material body, through material body, and through material concepts. We don't have proximity. Jiva doesn't have proximity to each other, and we are just expecting grace, like a flower from Goloka, coming. So you can never relate jiva to jiva, and in a liberated state, in rasa, in tattva you are part of Krishna, amsha of Krishna. So you have to relate with another jiva through Krishna. And in rasa you have rasa with Krishna first, and then all other rasas develop from that. So in devotional service, that means that in between devotees there always must be Krishna as a center of all relationships. In this world here is said this thing, vita vyati shanga. Monetary transactions means it's not unconditional love. It's always something conditioned. I give you this, for that I expect this. And therefore we cannot get suprasidati. Ahaituke prihata sayatma. How is it going? Ahaituke prihata sayatma suprasidati? Yatma. Yatma suprasidati. So the Atma cannot get satisfaction because it's not accustomed to living like that, cause and effect. It's transactional love. It's not actually love, no? It's transaction, just like in restaurant. It means it looks like a love. They serve you, and they're so nice, but they expect something in return. But the standard of spiritual life which Krishna expects is something new for us, something amazing, to our consciousness. Savaipum samparadormo yato bhaktir adoksha ahaituki apratiha, causeless and ceaseless love. And this object of love never ceases to exist. He's always fresh and beautiful, and he doesn't expect anything from you. And when just hearing this, you want him to be God. If he's not God, I want that he's God, isn't it? I think, progressing in spiritual life, for me, one amazing point was I had this feeling like, why only God must be God? Why all of us are not God? I'm coming of background of, different traditions, of course, Western, Abrahamic, and then Buddhist, then Indian variations of Mayavada and Advaitavada. And over there I learned, that all of us are God, and you are transcendental Brahman, and you start to kind of become familiar with that idea. It's very pleasing to ego, isn't it? And then you come to Krishna consciousness, and how only he is God, no? But then you hear from Srimad Bhagavatam that he steps down from the position of being God. He doesn't want to be God. For him, doesn't mean anything. He wants rasa with devotee. For him, this is special. This actually killed me, in a way. All those philosophies and egos, and just I want this person to be my, beloved. I want to serve him and have him as a center of my focus in life. So we have to. Jiva Goswami says we have to learn Sambandha Gyan, because if without Sambandha Gyan you cannot have Shuddha Bhakti. Because if you don't know the real concept of Krishna, perception of Krishna and yourself, that you are not this body, and this body means you are not enjoyer. This body doesn't mean just say, oh, I'm not this material body. Actually, I will not go into this topic, but actually Srila Prabhupada also says you are this body. Especially as sadhaka, you are this body. Jiva, Atma doesn't have any other body than this. Then how you engage your senses in Krishna's? Anyway, it's a long topic, but what I wanted to say before that yeah, you have to understand Sambandha Gyan. Then the connection is clear. You are Amsha of Bhagavan. And then all these Mishra Bhakti concepts, Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra concepts are resolved in your subtle body. You understand relationship, and all other concepts, illusory concepts, are resolved. Especially there are concepts of jiva in tamoguna, in rajoguna, in sattvaguna. Different traditions, they give different ideas what means jiva. Like if you think of Abrahamic traditions, they are actually physicalist, materialist. There is no Atma. You are Atma. In one verse in Lalita Madhava, Krishna is saying that Atma is like a seed and body is like a tree. But for them there is no seed, it's just a tree. So they are actually materialist. There is no moksha for Abrahamic traditions. They're called Trivargikas, Dharma, Artha and Kama. There is no moksha. Because how you can be liberated if you are this body? With this body you are going to spiritual world or to heaven. No? So very important to understand Sambandha Gyan, purify the concept of the self, and then pure self can serve Krishna in Shuddha Bhakti, and it is called Ananya Bhakti also. There is no other love there. And you see, I will just quote verse from Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na shochati na kankshati. Remind me, Sama Sarva Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. Mad Bhaktim Labate Param, this Para Bhakti is achieved, Labdam, on Brahma Bhuta level, when the self is in rejoicing. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na shochati na kankshati. It's not lamenting or desiring, and it's equal to everyone because he sees others also in Krishna consciousness. So this bhakti is special gift by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami. Anya Bilashita Shunyam. This is that verse. That devotion is developed on Brahma Bhuta level. Jiva Bhuta, there are so many, in that concept there is so many ideas I have to enjoy in this way or that way. So with this I will stop and ask if there is any question, any comment, realization. Yes, Prabhu.
In the verse talks about short-lasting marriages.
Uh-huh.
And though you may not have personal experience, you must have observed these dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be your advice as a teacher of the society for our marriages to last longer, or rather to
Last for life.
last the recommended amount of time?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. I think it's very challenging, not for me to answer. It's very challenging for people to practice that also, no? So what to do, no? I think it's a nature of Kali Yuga. But with saying this, I'm not just saying we should just go with this and just surrender to this, because I think sometimes is inadequately advocated premature renunciation. Just stay brahmachari for whole life. Okay, but how many stayed? I think it's training is the best education. Education in culture is the way to get the steady mind which can endure nishkama karma in that level. And and Shastra sometimes describe different levels of marriage. Psychologically, one is of course this like enthusiasm in meeting new person and like falling in love in that person, and then after that the situation actually astrologically also comes from different nakshatras to maturing into seeing the obligations, no? And then after obligations naturally comes the frustration, being not able to perform obligations, and there is non-liking of another person because of lack of commitment. So therefore I'm saying the key is always, for anything I think in this world, is nishkama karma yoga. And our grandparents used to be like that. I don't think they used to like each other like whole life, Because as I said, the rupa is changing, like where is the boy and girl's beauty or that enthusiasm of life? It's not there. But you have to transfer to maturity then. And marriage becomes more wise, mature, and I'm sure you know much better than myself. So then and this maturity for us means that in Krishna consciousness, vanaprasthas are seeing each other as servants of Krishna, sadhakas, and loving and appreciating in that context. So how that practically works, I'm sure you would know better, but I think it's nishkama karma. If we move, not only in marriage, in any relationship, from sakama to nishkama, because sakama means I'm so-called friend because I have something from you, but nishkama is in trouble I'm also friend, and we know that the contract in marriage, religious contract, is like Gita saying, in gain and a result, in a good and bad, favorable, unfair, you are there. And in that way you become steady also in Atma Tattva. You become Sthita Pragya. That wisdom is developed, that, okay, yes, things are there, but what's my duty? I mean, I don't have a wife, but recently I had, like 2 months back, some serious conflict with my brother. And I had to I had to really think, what should I do, I felt really like Arjuna, Really like to the level, to beat or not to beat. To protect or not, to beat. To beat. Vira rasa, like fight. To fight or not to fight. And to some degree I have, realized I have to tolerate for the benefit of others. Because of love and affection. I was ready to beat, but I didn't beat. But I didn't beat because I remembered, that Srila Prabhupada would be pleased with another things. He wants us to be gentlemen. And I realized it would be more beneficial for myself and for himself not to beat. So sometimes not to beat is better also. No, most of the time. But in this extreme situation, Gita-like situation, not to beat sometimes is also good. I regret, this situation, but sometimes it's like that. Life is like that. But in daily situation, I think we should think. Okay, if you love yourself. Krishna consciousness also means love yourself. Don't be, like a, hypocrite. Oh, I love just Krishna. And love yourself means also take care of yourself in all levels. And if you love yourself, then you will look for your benefit and benefit of others. And benefit of others is your own benefit also, because he's my brother, no? And if he's suffering, I'm also suffering, and things like. But your question, I think, from Bhagavatam perspective, the root problem of conflicts is we are in duality. And our tradition can contribute to resolution of conflict by this Advaya Jnana Tattva. Actually, there is no absolute non-difference. It's Beda. Between you and me, there is no absolute difference. Between me and Krishna, there is no absolute difference. Shakti Matayor Abeda. This is our philosophy. And when you see that there is no absolute difference between you and Krishna, then Krishna's pleasure is your pleasure. Like this is Gopi Swabhav. And what Krishna wants in this situation, Krishna is enjoyer. So how he enjoys? That if you hurt someone, then you're not pleasing Krishna. So this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, Advaya Gyan Tattva, can stop conflicts. And it can stop wars, because duality of being, Palestinian or Israeli and Russian or Ukrainian will stop. This bodily concept of life is just an illusion. So then you see on Atma Tattva, and you see others as you see others benefit as your own benefit. And people who are, like pious, they always act in that way. Act in a way that by serving they get enjoyment, like mother serving a child. So I went a little outside of your question, but through this I try to explain, because I don't have experience of marriage, so I don't know. So what can I say? But I mean, the essence of rasa is in all rasa same, no?
Well, I appreciate very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
As what do you call that? As Einstein said,
Mm-hmm.
the problems we face today cannot be solved at the same level
Uh-huh.
we were when we created them.
Yeah.
So you are rightly emphasizing we need to lift our consciousness.
Yeah.
Via Jnana, and maybe even before that, this Nishkama.
Nishkama, yeah.
I think that's in essence essential.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your session. Connected to this question, I was wondering, probably it's because of lack of education, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're also mentioning that brahmacharya life means actually not just to learn about Krishna in that sense, but
Mm-hmm.
also how to deal in this material world. And
Mm-hmm.
as I see the situation in ISKCON also, for example, my Guru, who was and so on, they teach something, of course, and also a lot of things that are going wrong. So maybe
Okay, can you explain this, because important to understand what you mean? They teach the Krishna consciousness and things how they go wrong. Can you?
no, the education is probably not optimal.
Mm-hmm. It means optimal how.
Like how teachers are dealing or showing
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask, what is it actually to educate children and also brahmacharis in
Mm-hmm.
Krishna consciousness, and
Mm-hmm.
where we can see these examples,
Right.
really learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You see, this topic of Mayapur Gurukul is very complex and actually unpleasant for me to touch, but I will speak in general, because this topic is, disturbance for the last couple of years especially. But let's say from the perspective of general education of Gurukul, so what means Gurukul? Gurukul means to live with the Guru, and you can't call something an ashram if there is no Guru. A brahmacharya ashram is why I call ashram, because you get shelter of which shelter of Guru. If there is no Guru, then there is no ashram. There is no brahmacharya ashram. So what student is learning from Guru? As we said, both paravidya and aparavidya, and in our tradition we learn aparavidya in context of Krishna consciousness. So intra-relationship psychology is learned very nicely, explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. But in 80s, 90s, and in 2000s, we in ISKCON we didn't train our brahmacharis in nectar of devotion. In some portions of nectar devotion we don't even teach, and this reflects very much sociologically, because we don't have then brahmacharya means vairagya. Our tradition is teaching yukta vairagya, but it's not just vairagya, it's yukta vairagya. So how to engage everything in Krishna consciousness? So if brahmachari learns these things in principle, then he can engage with anything in Krishna's service and be detached from that. But if you teach renunciation, means you're abandoning things. You're tyagi, basically. So, but that means when you come to stage of marriage, then you will not be able to relate with objects. You will consider them, trivial and not able to engage in Krishna service. Like relationship with woman, in a psychological relationship, you will think that this is just disturbance in my practice, because if you just generalize, you will see we teach Tyaga. Marriage is Maya, woman is Maya, everything is Maya, and then what you get psychologically, just seclusion, separation, and this pattern continues. Not only woman is Maya, but Prabhus are Maya, other brahmacharis is Maya, everything is Maya, and then you end up with earphones in ears and seclusion somewhere. You do minimal service and you don't have relationship with devotees. One brahmachari asked, I think he was from Mumbai or Pune, Prabhu, can we have a friendship in ashram? Can we have friends in ashram? It's shocking for human being, to which degree we went. To which degree we should reconsider our mentalities, Can we have friends in ashram? Ridiculous, isn't it? Like, sorry? Tragic, yes. Completely tragic, That means that our ashrams are not effective because, as I said, without Guru, there is no ashram. Because ashrita, the shelter one, is not taking shelter of ashraya. So it cannot be called ashram, and I see that as a big problem. You have to live with Guru. You get your diksha for the sake of shiksha. And your shiksha you have to get by kaya, mana and vacha, by body, mind and words, and then you learn. You learn from someone who is rasika, who is bhavuka, and this doesn't mean only learning abstractly Krishna conscious concepts, but you see how person is interacting. How person is interacting with devotees in different levels, and how he's seeing Krishna consciousness in everything. So without that is a big problem actually. Where to learn that? Pray to Krishna, he reveals. I think he reveals to sincere devotees who is very advanced, and he can teach you that. I saw in my life that if you're sincere, Krishna will send someone who's devotee who really is deep in understanding Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Yeah, I think many more things can be said, but did this cover all your points? Or? Yeah. Okay. No, it's not in depth. Next time, okay? All right. Thank you so. Okay. There are two. Okay, I'll try to give short answer because of time. Announcement. I think he has a question. Off. Okay, then. Yeah, after. Yes. Sure. Thank you. This night? Oh, wow. Haribo. You want to say on mic because of devotees hearing online, no? Okay. Geneva. Lausanne. Mm-hmm. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jai. Something more, Prabhu? Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.